Hello everybody and welcome to one more video on big units. This is the fourth video on the Napoleonic Wars, and this is the British and Portuguese army that fought the third invasion of Portugal, made by the French, of course. And this is, a big unit tailored for the Battle of Buçaco. So this is the order of battle of the Portuguese and British army at Buçaco. Of course, the good thing about having a Luso British-Portuguese army for the Napoleonic Wars is that you can use it, more or less from 1808 for first invasion, second invasion, third invasion, up to 1811, even up to the beginning of 1812, because then the Belgian Chaco comes, of course, and the British change a little bit their appearance. But most of these figures are perfectly okay for majority of the battles of the Peninsular War, even if all these guys are tailored for the Buçaco battle. So this is organized by the divisions. I have here a memory aid, so you can see here First Division by Spencer. You can see here Second Division. You can see here Picton's division, more or less, more of that later. You see Cole, and then you see Leith division, and Crawford's, of course, which is here. We'll talk about that later. And finally, the Portuguese independent brigades. There's also some artillery spread a little bit all over, and also some buildings that are important for the battle. Now let's check a little bit more on detail. I will skip much of the information about historical parts, and I'll concentrate on the modeling issues of this army. So let's start, for instance, with this first few British regiments. You can see there is a big figures are coming from many different origins, as you can see. For instance, you can see this guy here that is kneeling. Sorry, it is obviously the Esci figure, but if you notice, he has a stovepipe, and the stovepipe is made of a piece of evergreen in order to make the stovepipe that the British used during most of the Peninsular War. The Grenadiers are also with the bearskin. Of course, they didn't use bearskins, but I like to place bearskins in my Grenadiers. At least it makes them different, and it's a little bit less boring to paint. Also, you can see here officers with holding the flag with bicorns, as they should. You can see here this guy on horse, Brigadier Commander. It is the Revel figure with the bicorn also. Coming maybe from Italeri, I'm not sure. More of the same to the back. So the stovepipes come from different origins. There are also, you can see, for instance, the guy that is marching is a Belgian figure from Hat Industries. Belgians are very good to make the British war with the stovepipe. And then, of course, Hat made our day when they released that very big, almost 100 figure box with the Peninsular War infantry, and all problems stopped from then on. More officers, you can see over there, all again conversions. I don't know exactly from where that guy comes, but probably another Frankenstein figure. Some Highlanders over there. These guys here are the 42nd Foot. Some of the regiments are very small. This scale here is this ratio is 1 to 200 figures. In fact, these guys are meant to use the Age of Eagles, which is 1 to 360 figures. But in fact, I reduced here the ratio in order to have more figures. 1 to 200. Sorry. And like this, even so, some of the regiments, British regiments, are very small, as you can see. So 2 bases sometimes represent entire regiment with 400 figures around that number. You also can see some skirmishes from the 60th regiment. There are several stands in front of each of the brigades. There are also some metal brigade commanders by regular miniatures. There is some Portuguese artillery here also, which is of course a conversion from the Airfix Royal Horse Artillery, especially with the change of headgear and some trimming of the coat. More Portuguese artillery here. In fact, these are straight Revel British artillery painted as Portuguese. You can also see here dragoons, which were not part of the battle, but they were, in fact, in the order of battle of the British Army, but they didn't participate in this battle because this battle occurred more than 400 meters above sea level in a big mountain. So, I mean, the cavalry here would not be very fortunate. And these guys are obviously, as you can recognize, they are the Prussian dragoons painted as British dragoons, and they do a very nice job. Later on, Hat Industries released the dragoons, but well, it was British dragoons, but it was too late. I already had these guys painted. You can see here also a funny unit, which is a 23rd line, and they're all wearing the bearskin. I placed the bearskin on all of them. French bearskins on top of the British torsos, unless the flag bearers. Even the oops, let me try to see if it can focus. Even the small kid at the back has also a bearskin. So this is of course this is not, it was not like this day that they presented themselves in the battle, but I like to use the bearskins on them each time I can. At least in this battalion I could. More Highlanders over there. These guys here are the 79th Foot, and they are a mix that you probably may recognize several brands. There is Esci, there is Airfix, there is Italeri also, and they I think they go well alongside each other. You can see the big guy here, Wellesley, is here. These guys, these figures come from the set of Italeri for British command, which is, I think, which doubles with the Prussians, if I'm not mistaken. It's Prussian and British High Command, right? Something like that. And there's a vignette here with the commander of the army. More British, another British Brigade Stewart, and more Hat Industries. Here again, more Hat Industries from that very famous big box. You can see here, for instance, a Prussian Esci officer waving his sword with a bicorn. In fact, it is a changed bicorn because bicorn is crossed along the shoulder, so now it's turned to the front, and it became a British officer. There are also some Esci figures, other Esci figures placed in the middle. More AJT, Hat Industries. This guy is on a horse. It is a very famous Airfix officer with a new bicorn and with an Italeri horse, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe an Italeri head. I think so, yeah. To make something different. Now we come to Pictons, and you can see here the true Picton as he was in the Battle of Buçaco, using his knight cap. This is a Waterloo 1815 figure. I took the tall hat that he carried and replaced a little bit with a blob of green stuff in order to make his nightcap, and of course he's waving his famous umbrella. So Picton here is in all his glory. I mean, escorted by a dragoon. Artillery here again, also British foot artillery, Esci guns, I think most of them, and Royal Horse artillery figures turned into foot artillery with the help of new heads, and some true Royal Horse Artillery over there. There's the limber over there also for the foot artillery, and here Royal Horse Artillery again. Now let's come to Picton again. Plenty of conversions that you can see here. You can see here again that trick I've mentioned you before. There are some guys here that are Esci figures with a piece of green, styrene, evergreen styrene, and a blob of green stuff to make the pom pom, and also going along them some Dutch from hat industry. So there's a mix here of figures that can produce, I think, a really reasonable result. More of the same all along. And here starts the Portuguese. My first Portuguese were like this. They were made of marching French with British heads. Most of them from Esci. Even the officer is a French guy from Esci, and they were turned with some trimming, of course, some details that came out, and they made a reasonable Portuguese. These were my first Portuguese guys. More artillery here. A very incomplete division here, which is the... Sorry, let me check. Which is the... Cole's division, because Cole division almost didn't do anything, so I really didn't bother making them. It didn't do anything because the French didn't attack that sector, of course, during the Buçaco battle. Now we go to let's introduce now the famous, probably the two most famous regiments of the battle, which are the light infantry. You can see here the 52nd Light Infantry Regiment and the 43rd, if I'm not mistaken, exactly 43rd. So these guys were the ones that stopped the French cold on top of the village of Sula, and they smashed the head of the French columns there in a very famous unisonous firing sequence. Also, you can see the militia of Tomar. These guys ran during the battle. They ashamed people from Tomar, Portuguese militia. These guys are made from mostly from Austrian uniforms, because in fact Portuguese uniform is made of, it was in fact of Austrian origin. The design was coming from Austria. So I used Austrian figures with Confederate ads, with of course with green stuff on top, to make the funny and exquisite address of the militia, of the Portuguese militia. The officers had, you can see them here, officers had Portuguese barretina, but the rest was having that very funny militia, Portuguese militia headgear. More hat industries all along, and then you start here to have plenty of Portuguese guys, mostly Revel, and also hat industries, Belgians. All mixed, they go well, I think, quite nicely. Here is the Loyal Lusitanian Legion. They were Portuguese immigrants in England. They were famous during the first invasion by defending the whereabouts of Lisbon. But here they were just spectators of the battle. They were placed on the southern tip of the ridge, so they saw no action. More Portuguese, that I told you that were made with mostly with British Esci figures. Also some French again. I think this guy is, I don't know even if he was French. I mean maybe, I don't know, something else. More British and Revel and even some very old Airfix painted as Portuguese. Some Italeri Prussian painted as Portuguese brigadier commanders. More Portuguese made from the French, from the Esci French, mixed also with some British Esci figures. More Hat Belgians to make Portuguese, but again a mix of other brands, and more of the same over there for the Portuguese independent brigades. You can see here the caçadores. Caçadores have some of them, for instance, are French, I think, with Scots grey heads. It was at least an attempt to make caçadores. These caçadores are better. These are the box of the 95th Rifles from Revel, turned into Portuguese caçadores. More caçadores here from different regiments. And this is it. The famous Leith windmill, which is a scratch built thing. This is a Draper model convento das Carmelitas, dos pés descalços, the barefooted convent of Carmelitas, barefooted Carmelitas. It was the name of the congregation that lived inside this small monastery, which you can still visit, of course. It's a paper Draper model, and this is another paper model. These were sold, in fact, in the Museum of Buçaco, and this is the chapel of the Encarnadouro, Capella of Encarnadouro, which is nowadays the museum of the Battle of Buçaco. A very interesting model. They were varnished maybe 30 years ago, and they are still okay, even if they're paper. They're still holding ground. And this is nothing to do with Buçaco. This is the 71st Islanders. These were the guys that came from Argentina after the big failure of Wellesley in Argentina, and they were using those funny trousers that they brought from Argentina. They have nothing to do with third invasion. They have to do only with the first invasion. But even so, I made them because like this I can have at least the most funniest units for the Peninsular War. Nothing to do with Buçaco, but even so an interesting unit. And of course it is Highlanders hats from several, probably most of them from Esci, on top of Revel and Esci British infantry bodies. And here you have. So everything is shown, I think. Hope you have enjoyed. This is the Portuguese and British army for the campaign of 1810, with some high expectations of it to reach at least beginning of 1812. So I hope you have enjoyed, and see you next with another British Army, or maybe I'll show you another, not British Army. In fact, I'll show you I'll show you the next British Army, which is the British Army for the Battle of Brandywine. Nothing to do with Napoleonics, but of course with the American War of Independence. So I hope you have enjoyed, and see you next. Bye bye.